Nathan, before we start the episode today, I've just got something that I really kind of need to talk to you about.
Of course, Brenton. What is it?
Is it possible
Yes.
that during this episode, we could actually...
What? What? And what?
After that, I think that we could maybe even just...
I can't hear you.
But only if you want to.
Now dig on this.
Hey! Whoa, 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 whoa! Hey! Whoa, whoa!
Welcome to Classic Movie Banter.
Hello.
You know that podcast where me, that dude Brenton, and that other dude over there, Nathan.
Hello.
We talk about movies that are 20 years or older.
20 years!
20 years! And we tell you guys whether those films are still worth watching this very day.
Today.
Or whether they're worth having a bit of fisticuffs with it, with that DVD box, and then throwing it into the water.
There we go.
I mean?
Are we gonna watch On The Waterfront or not? These are the questions. These are the hard-hitting questions that our listeners want to know, Brenton.
Hey, it is a hard-hitting question, and for episode 96, we thought, why not? Why not review On The Waterfront?
Yeah.
That classic film from 1954.
Yes.
Directed by Elia Kazan, who also directed A Streetcar Named Desire, which I believe we've both seen. You've seen
Yes.
Streetcar, right? Yes.
No, I haven't actually. I have not seen Streetcar, so I'm a
Why
babe in the woods, Brenton.
Oh, you are a babe pig in the city.
Yeah, and it's really annoying. Shush, how dare you? It's really annoying as well because a lot of people talk about Streetcar. Like I'll see them in interviews, and I'm like, motherfucker, I still haven't seen it.
Have you read the play? Have you seen the play?
Yes, I've seen the play, but I haven't watched the film because Brando does the film, doesn't he?
Yes.
Yeah,
he
yeah,
does.
yeah.
Stella. Yep.
Or maybe I have seen the film. No, I have seen it. I'm lying with you. I have seen it because I do remember that scene. I keep getting A Streetcar Named Desire and Death of a Salesman like crossed in my head. I don't know why.
That's interesting.
Like I don't know why. They're very different movies, but for some reason I just gotta cross them over.
Have you read Death of a Salesman as well?
Yes, I did read that. I think I read it first like years ago.
Yeah, I read that play by recommendation of our mutual speech and drama teacher during school.
Oh, wonderful!
Shout out to Melissa.
G'day, Melissa. How you doing?
G'day, Melissa. I love you, Melissa.
Love you so much. But yeah, I love this kind of work, Brenton. It's funny because we had this on the movie roster for ages, and I thought, yeah, fuck it, On The Waterfront, let's do it. I generally had no idea what this movie was about. I knew nothing about it going in. Did you?
Did you know? All I knew about it was a few little tidbits of information in terms of the making of this feature, and also the famous line that's in this movie.
I knew the line. I didn't know it belonged to this movie. So when the line came up, I was like, "What?"
Because it's always like you see like compilations of like the best performances of all time,
Best
and it's always
acting
that
ever.
Yeah, it's always that line that is in those, and I know it like the shot. I know kind of the setting, but I have no idea what the context is or what's actually happening. So Nathan, speaking of context, do you want to ask me a little question?
Brenton, can you please pitch for me On The Waterfront? Can you pitch me the movie? So we're on the water front.
So we are on the waterfront. We're on the waterfront in.
Whoa! How do we get here?
Actually, we might be late 40s. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I'm not quite sure.
I think late 40s. Yeah.
We're there, and we follow this character played by the everyone's favorite method actor, Marlon Brando.
Oh really? Mine's Jared Leto.
Shush. If you said Daniel Day-Lewis, you might have had some credibility.
I'm trying to think of someone that'd annoy you.
Jared Leto's a good actor. Like, to be fair to him.
Yeah, sometimes he is.
He just gave a questionable performance in Suicide Squad, but
he'll bring it back home with Morbius, apparently.
And that may or may not have been his fault. So, good on you, Jared. I expect a dead rat in the mail any day.
Jesus. Oh. That's so
anyway,
not
back
okay, but we'll talk about that another time. Keep pitching.
To the pitch of On The Waterfront. So we follow this character played by Marlon Brando. And he is just this guy that, everyone calls this guy a bum in the town. Everyone refers to him as the bum, that he's kind of going nowhere with his life, that he had some promise, but he's never lived up to anything, and he's just kind of this guy that's bumming around, and he's got himself mixed in with his older brother and the...
Oh, are you pitching me Good Will Hunting right now?
No, because You could almost say that. No, he's got himself mixed up in the mob.
Oh no! Because he needs to learn that crime doesn't pay.
And the mob controls basically the workers who work in the shipping yards on the waterfront.
Oh, okay. But enough about Adelaide.
hey, I'd love to see the Australian version of this, am I right?
Oh, Christ, that would be something, wouldn't it?
Oh, gosh. Actually, I don't want to see that. I take that back. Anyway, so he gets himself worked. He's in with the mob, and he kind of does little errands, and one day he does a specific
He's delivering washing.
Pretty much. He's delivering a pigeon, actually.
Oh,
and
yeah. Is he Lawrence Fishburne from John Wick 2?
Nathan, I think this is the most you've ever interrupted a pitch.
I'm so
but
sorry.
I love it. Like, no, don't apologize, because it's actually really funny. But
I'll step back. I'm like that movie producer who's way too excited about the movie. Like, whoa, I've got all these ideas.
So he's doing this errand one day, and he's delivering a certain item, which happens to be a bird to a member of this town. And
we're in New York, aren't we?
Are we?
I thought we were. I thought I saw the Empire State at one point through the fog.
We're adding that classic segment where Brenton looks up the location.
Brenton looks up where the fuck are we? I'm fairly certain it's New York, because like there's a scene where like he looks out on the water and it's like all metaphorical, because you're like, oh, he's a bum, but he could be in the city.
But there's no way this is New York. There's no there's no way.
There's no rivers in New York. There's no water.
Where is this set?
Maybe no one knows, but it's like going to be generic American city. Maybe it is set in Adelaide. What a plot twist. Like it zooms out and it just shows Australia.
That was like the first thing on the Google search as well. When I said where is on the water, it said, and it just came up, where is on the waterfront set. There you go.
No one knows.
Setting place, Hoboken, New Jersey. So New Jersey.
Oh. But isn't New Jersey opposite New York? Am I?
Yeah.
So it is. Well, okay, it's opposite. You can see New York.
It's Jersey.
It's the Jersey side of the bay, but you can see New York in the distance.
Well, that's good to know. That makes sense.
That settles it
So you were right with your assumption of like seeing the city in the background.
Yeah, because it's a metaphor, Brenton. Because he's a bum, but maybe he could be in New York as a boxer. Because apparently he was good at that at one point.
Isn't it always, though, like with the American dream, that it's always they want to go east?
Yeah, he's literally as east as he can go, but he still wants to go more east. He's like, no, get out of the water. He's like, but I'm on the waterfront.
Sorry, not east, west to LA and California.
Oh, maybe he's doing like a lap. Like he has to touch the east side before he goes back west. Like,
maybe, who knows? Anyway, the point is, back to wherever the hell I was.
What's this movie about?
So he's doing this errand for the mob. And it so happens that, unfortunately, that errand ends in tragedy, that he was not aware that...
Are we watching Two Hands?
You gotta stop.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just seeing how derivative this fucking film is.
I love it, but let's get through this segment and get into the show. Holy crap. Hey, there may or may not be a dead brother in this film, so, you know.
Oh, we really are watching Dead Hands.
So this ends in tragedy that he was not aware that it was going to, and this causes some moral conflict in our protagonist that causes him to second guess where he has ended up in his life, why he has ended up there, and what he could possibly do to bring himself back, bring his moral compass back to a more healthy place, let's say. And in doing so, the cost of what that would bring to the people he cares about, or whether it's worth just taking the easy option. And continuing along the trajectory that he is, and like everyone else in the town, play D&D, deaf and dumb.
Deaf and dumb.
To the proceedings of the mob.
This sounds a lot like Chinatown.
It kind of does.
But also sounds a little bit like Harry Potter when Dumbledore says that line, it's time to now choose between what is right and what is easy.
That's it.
If you remember the Goblet of Fire trailer.
I do remember that trailer.
There we go.
I do. I remember watching that and thinking, why the hell is Daniel Radcliffe's hair like... Why is it grown like...
Why has Daniel decided to be a mop this movie?
Exactly, yeah. I think Rupert Grint was worse.
Oh, easily has the worst hair. Oh, Neville's got a pretty bad head of hair as well, that film.
I've killed Harry Potter!
That wasn't a bad impression.
No, it was terrible. That was terrible.
Is it 4 or 5 where Neville finally starts to get good looking? I think it's 5 from memory.
I'm not sure. I can't speak.
There's a turning point where like every character goes, wait a minute, Neville. Like... You know what's also weird about those movies? They kind of insinuate that Luna Lovegood's into Neville, or like they're going to end up together. But if you read the books, like Neville ends up with like some random like chick.
Does he?
Yeah, he does. He doesn't end up with Luna in the books. Yeah,
he doesn't end up with
But
Luna.
in Death Hours Part 2, he's like running past Harry's like, and Harry's like, "Where are you going?" And Neville's like, "I got to find
Luna. I gotta tell her. Did he say I love her? Like,
yeah, I love her.
I gotta tell her I love her." And then like
Harry's like,
all right, and then it's followed. That is followed by the most awkward fucking kiss between him and Ginny.
Yeah, it goes for like half a second. Yeah, they kind of have a little weird peck like in the middle of the hallway while everyone's like running around them.
None of their kissing scenes were great. There was no real chemistry.
No, my favorite though was still when they kiss in the kitchen and Fred's just standing there.
Nathan, you got to stop derailing.
I'm so sorry.
I just realized
I'm being so anarchist this episode. I'm just going all directions.
So basically, we're exploring the moral compass of this guy, and he has to choose between the easy way or the right way. And on the back jump of New Jersey and the mob on the waterfront, and maybe he might find a partner along the way who may or may not be a woman or a pigeon. We don't know.
Ooh.
Maybe both.
Brenton, you entice me.
Wait. Isn't it more like ooh? Isn't the pigeon sound more like?
That's exactly it. Jesus. Oh, we should do a compilation.
Oh, that's the pitch.
Another 7 seasons we should do. Top 7 films with pigeons in them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a few.
Oh,
you know what
Shrek
I mean?
2 is on that list where one flies into the castle.
Mate.
21 Jump Street where the doves come out. Oh.
There was a specific scene in this, by the way, that reminded me of The Lighthouse. And
I
really?
think
You might know the one.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's a spoiler thing.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that.
Cool.
Oh, Christ, I would have loved Willem to rock up in that. Or Rob Pat. Just fucking on the roof. Oh.
See, there was also an actor in this that looked like Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny that we're on the same page with this. Cool. Let's get into
All
it,
right.
Nathan. What do you think
Brenton,
of On the Waterfront?
Well done for dodging every ball I threw at you.
Let's get into what we thought of On the Waterfront.
Okie dokie. So, Brenton, this movie, what do you think?
Oh, I posed that question
okay, fine.
to you, Nathan.
Damn it. I want to rebound, not bloody lead the way into the bush.
Everyone's heard it.
All right.
Yeah, hey man, this is your time to speak. Like literally on the podcast, it's like, you know, you're not meant to have derailed us as much as you have. This is like your allocated speaking time, and you like pass it to me.
I'm like the kid that got out of detention, but I walk into the wrong classroom into another detention. Like, oh no, I'm still in
Listeners,
trouble.
If this is your first time listening to Classic
We're
Movie
so
Banter,
sorry.
I'm so sorry.
Oh.
I'm so sorry.
But bless you for still listening if you're here. Like, you must be very confused. Okay, On the Waterfront. Okay, let's put on our respectable movie critic hats, Brenton. Let's toss out this frivolity we've been jumping around in for the past little bit. Okay, On the Waterfront. Brenton, this is a well-crafted film, I would say. You know, it is excellently directed. You got some of the best acting in cinema. However, in saying that, I feel like the story is kind of by the numbers. It's good. It's really good. But I feel like I was going in the pitch, I feel like everything I've seen in this movie, I've seen other places. And I guess in 2020, you know, with hindsight, that's kind of, you know, that's there. But despite it, I still had a lot of fun with this movie.
Yeah. Hey man, I think I'm on the same page as you, and it's interesting because now that I didn't. And the biggest compliment I can give this movie is I agree with everything you just said in regards to the plot. Like, you're right. But as you were saying that, I was finding myself agreeing with that, but also finding that I hadn't even considered that really. Like, because I think what this film does is and it's this thing I always say.
Is it a character study?
No, it's not that it's complicated. It's that it's executed really well. So you kind of forget, like, even though it's a very familiar storyline, and I didn't think it was going to be either, to the film's credit. I was invested into where it was going because I didn't necessarily think that it was going to have. I don't want to spoil this, but let's say as a stereotypical, not that I think it's that stereotypical, but like, you know, such a familiar trajectory of the plot.
Yeah.
But it does, and that's fine because the execution of like including, like you said, the stellar performances, the visuals are really good, and also just
the framing is excellent. Like, Jesus, that stood out,
and some great storytelling choices in terms of like execution. Like I said, so there's some moments in this film that really use sound in interesting ways, and
interesting is one of them.
Well, and I appreciate those artistic choices that kind of liven this story. But it's all about that connection between characters, which I think is where this film really shines. Marlon
Absolutely.
Brando, man.
Jeez, Marlon Brando. Oh,
Man, you know,
jeez.
he's one of those actors.
He is one of them.
But he is, and what I wrote about his performance.
You wrote a little heart of
was,
like B plus M and like a little love heart. Like,
he's just a master of subtlety, I think.
oh,
And
I'd never noticed this before, but just like the way he touches his face, like on his cheek, and how he like rubs the back of his head, or he'll like put his hand on his mouth, like, and it's funny, you wouldn't notice this with other actors, but the way he does it is so goddamn intelligent. Like,
he's so I think there's actors every generation that come along that really kind of fit into this category, and I'm not quite sure how to articulate what this category is, but I put him in the category of De Niro, let's say, who I think is someone that is very similar
De
to
Niro,
him. And also,
Brando, Day-Lewis, you, like all of them doing.
Joaquin, I think, is in that category as well. You know what I mean? Like every generation.
Apparently, Jared
Leto. No. So no. But the artistry of just of subtlety and I had to say like realness, because everyone's like, it's so real, but I hate saying that because
it's not even that. It's not that Brando has just picked up the script and gone, okay, here are the decisions to deliver these lines. Like he's added so much more meaning with like not just how he's delivering them, but like in every sense of interpretation, like his physicality, his the way he changes his voice, like every tool he's got, he's using to its highest form.
And as an actor, he's just. I'd also put Christian Bale in this category as well. Just thinking of and I just think like these type of actors, like. The one I put just down is just, it's very, even if you're not an actor, I think, it's very inspirational just to watch and be like...
Because you're watching someone who's very good at what they do doing it.
Exactly. Yeah. You're watching a master of their craft. It's like watching Nadal, you know, or you know, Tiger Woods in his prime. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
before the affairs. Like
before the fucking fallout.
Oh, jeez.
You know what I mean? Like, you're just watching a master of their craft, like you said.
And it's funny because I've heard this before, and like... It sounds almost wanky, like, you know, it's like, oh yeah, sure. But like genuinely when you watch this, it does do that jaw-dropping thing. It reminds me a little bit of like when you see Heath Ledger in Dark Knight, where you're like, this person isn't acting. They're elevating this work in every sense of it.
And whilst like it's very impressive, what's even more impressive about it is that whilst we say this and that it's such a standout and it's inspirational and whatever, it's still not taking away from the storytelling.
No. And it's not like Oscar bait where he's just like doing a monologue every 3 minutes about like, I gotta make my decisions. Like, it's not that. That's my Brando impression.
Was that a reference to The Godfather, maybe?
I think it was. I think that's why. He sounds a little bit Godfather-y in this. But, you know, there's that, but also what I find really interesting is that he doesn't hog the screen. He's still like the sister of the bloke who, you know, who leaves and the mob boss, like they get a good amount of screen time. For some reason, the priest gets a lot, and to be honest, I wasn't a huge fan of him. I don't know why, but he rubbed me the wrong way.
I actually was. I enjoyed the priest, and I enjoy his arc as well. There's a specific scene in this.
There's crucifixion in this place. Like, oh, Jesus.
That was one of my favorite scenes in the film.
Was it really? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I couldn't take it seriously.
But again,
you're all sinners.
But again, the execution of his performance, the filmmaking of showing us that scene and the way it shows us that scene and how it unfolds, but then also Brando's performance when he's just reacting to what's being said, is what brings the I guess emotional heft of that moment in for the audience. So whilst the performances are great, like the filmmaking and like the shots it chooses to show, like you said, it's not just. I think like a lesser filmmaker would honestly just, like you said, like let Brando hog the screen.
Yeah, unless a film would be like Theory of Everything, where like it's just exclusively Eddie Redmayne going, ugh. But like in this one, like that was my Stephen Hawking impression.
That was interesting. Carry on.
We're gonna get letters, but like
send us an email, listeners. Was that offensive? I don't know.
Tweet at us. Jesus, but
let
like,
us know. Jesus Christ.
But like, I think one of the greatest strengths, like you mentioned it, is that the camera goes around to everyone else. For example, we get a reprisal of a wonderful actress from North by Northwest. In the sense of Eva.
Yes.
In her first film, by the way. This was her first film.
Was this her debut?
This was her debut film, and she's opposite Marlon Brando. And they both got Oscars for it, and you can see why.
Oh, she's fantastic.
She's amazing. Also, so beautiful. So beautiful. Oh my goodness.
But I love
Brett is like fanning me down. Like, woo!
Hey, calm down.
Okay,
calm down. Let's move on. Come on, Stephen. Let's move on.
Oh no.
No, but I loved her character in this as well. I loved all the characters in this film.
And bloody mob boss is the guy from The Exorcist.
Yes, he is.
I'm like, hey, you're back. Yeah. He's also in 12 Angry Men, and he's really good in that because he plays a really grumpy juror. Have you seen 12 Angry Men?
I have not, but I really want to. So maybe we can review that.
It's really
at some stage
good.
As well.
It's really good. He's like, mate, I don't like the guy on court because he's black, and everyone's like, don't be racist. And he's like, I'll be racist, and that's his character.
I think whilst we're like pointing out scenes though, because we're like talking through scenes in this film, even though we're not in spoilers yet, and we're not really giving anything away.
No.
What makes this work as well is that like as a film as a whole, like walking away from this, like I haven't stopped thinking about it, and not even just from a thematic standpoint, but like just in terms of the execution, like we said, but also just because I think I left. Let's say I didn't see this in the cinema, but I left the theater. Let's say with a smile on my face because I just
walk out of your lounge into the kitchen. Like
I had a really fulfilling experience with this film, and it's not just because the themes I think are like really human in the sense that it's about like some...
And it's still relevant when you consider labour laws. A lot of parallels with The Irishman with this film.
Yes, I agree.
I was waiting for Al Pacino as Jimmy Hoffa just to rock up. be like, where in the... Actually, this is a lot like The Irishman now I think about it. Also reminds me a little bit of Gone Baby Gone. How it's like you explore that local neighborhood. I feel like definitely Ben Affleck could have made this like if he was around back then. Does it also feel like it could have been maybe a play? I was getting a lot of play vibes from it. Like...
Yeah, I agree, but at the same time, I left this having a real fulfilling, like I said, film experience. Like there's scenes in this that I think really succeed because they're on film, and whilst I think it could work as a play and be interesting to see like an adaptation for the stage, and I think it could really work and be really powerful. At the same time, I think you're always going to be living up to this in a way. You know what I mean? Maybe they'll do a musical of it one day, I don't know, and they'll get around it that way.
That'd be great. I'd love to see a musical of this. I could have been a contender. And as he's just dancing around the car.
I don't. I really don't. And you know what? I'm glad that...
I'm hanging from a hook. Am I dead? We don't know. That should be a new segment we should introduce at one point. Should this movie be a musical?
I feel like we just did. So
there we go. I'm really starting to think about it. Like you could imagine like the opening monologue, everyone's like running around the factory, the opening sequence. It's like Book of Mormon where they're door knocking, but instead they're all like stacking like the Irish whiskey. Christ, was this sponsored by Irish whiskey? Like
I don't know,
it's fucking everywhere.
I felt like a Jameson whiskey after this, I gotta say.
Brenton, put the bottle down. Not now.
I felt like getting one of those many boxes of Jameson whiskey I have and just letting it crush me and just like, you know.
I feel like we're really itching towards spoilers. We should rate this.
Oh yeah, I was on the musical thing as well.
Oh yeah.
I got some massive Billy Elliot vibes. Like if you've seen Billy Elliot, the musical of the stage show, the last shot of this film.
Was Tom Holland's in this movie?
But yeah, there are a couple of child performances in this film, which are fine. They don't hold
a lot
screen,
coming
so
from Brenton to say that they're fine.
Which are fine. It gets around them.
I guess because we've seen Lord of the Flies, everything else will just look better.
Maybe. But the final shot of this film gave me massive Billy Elliot, the musical vibes, because there's a moment in Billy Elliot the musical when the miners all go down the mine shaft and the door, the mine door,
and it closes.
The elevator shuts and it closes exactly.
Oh, nice.
Reminiscent of the final shot in this film.
So you're saying...
Anyway, we are getting into spoilers.
Yeah, I know. So you're saying On the Waterfront stole from Billy Elliot. That's what you're saying.
Even though Billy Elliot, in terms of the historic timeline of cinema, it came after this, it's still On the Waterfront.
Brett is claiming it
Time
here
traveled into the future and it stole from Billy Elliot, the musical.
You're fond of me lobster, ain't you?
So, Brenton, would you watch this on a Thursday night? Would you recommend to listeners to put on Thursday night?
Absolutely, man. Yeah. If you were into a mob film from the perspective of someone that is questioning their moral beliefs and really captures an environment that captures a town that captures a community,
like Chinatown.
Yeah, kind of. But I think this is more of a... Chinatown's more if you want to walk away with a bleak.
Yeah, this is a lot happier. I was surprised how happy this film is actually.
I was too.
Also, how romantic it is. It's a very romancy kind of movie, so it'd be perfect for a date night.
But not in a
Oh, the strings up on a little bit.
No, but not in a Wuthering Heights kind of way.
Christ,
I'd say
no,
because I'd say
not a Wuthering Heights way. Oh,
I'd say you're watching romance with like excellent chemistry, and a scene that doesn't necessarily, like, obviously brings these two characters together, but more so from a standpoint of where the two characters are kind of different in a way as well, so it's interesting to watch, as opposed to just like, I love you and I love you, and we're meant to have a castle together.
Yeah.
Like, on the moors, you know, like...
Yeah. I was getting those kind of vibes from Little Women as well when I saw it, by the way. Like...
Yeah.
I was watching Little Women, I'm like, this is so much like Wuthering Heights and not in a good way.
Again, I like Wuthering Heights, and I like Little Women for those aspects as well, so...
No, I don't.
Maybe I'm just a sucker.
Don't marry the people that you grow up with. It's like...
But like, I really ship these two as a couple, you know, so...
It's saying that, like, when I grow up as in, like, you live in the same house grow up with. Like, don't do that. Marry your childhood sweethearts, but if they grow up in the same house, maybe think about it.
I've loved you since I was 3 years old.
It is a little thing, like,
It's such a weird relationship, that, because, like, clearly, like, in both... Well, actually, no. In Just Little Women, it's a scenario where, like... Imagine just, like, being in that situation where there's someone that was, like, basically raised with you, and you have such affection for them in that way, you know, in a romantic way. But, like, you can totally understand why they'd just be like, but dude, you're, like, my brother.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know, like...
You can definitely see why, like, Saoirse Ronan was just like, seriously, go for anyone else. And Timothée Chalamet's like, oh, but I want you.
And spoilers for Little Women, by the way.
Oh,
but,
yeah,
but
right.
but I'm gonna spoil it, that he still ends up with someone that he did grow up with. You know, like...
It's so funny because Florence Pugh was, like, so independent the whole movie. I felt like it was such a concession that she, like did end up needing to marry. But I do understand why. Like...
I always thought... See, everyone kind of rags on that relationship, I think, like, in that story, and how much they hate the Amy character. But I always like that character, and I always think it makes sense that they end up together. I think the Jo character is exactly right when she's like, "This shit would never work, dude. Like,
yeah,
this is gonna be an absolute disaster.
I'll just go marry a French professor instead."
Well, it's like he has to, like with Amy, he has to like grow up. You know what I mean? Like, as opposed to just being Peter Pan.
Also, with Jo, like in the French professor, I reckon she definitely has a type. Side note. Yeah, I love when Timothée Chalamet as well is just like, oh, this is so weird. I'm helping you get with your new lover. I don't like this. He's just like awkwardly standing there.
Man, we've really derailed. Like, I love it, but like we're really tangenting.
Jesus,
we're going on so many tangents this episode. Like,
we're so sorry,
we're reviewing all these other films. We're breaking the 20-year rule like every 2 seconds, talking about Harry Potter, talking about Little Women.
You know what's funny, Brett? Going into this, I wasn't actually going to give On the Waterfront a thumbs up because I actually thought it was too derivative. I was genuinely scratching my head, going, okay, what would listeners want to get out of this film that they couldn't get from others? But you actually turned me around on it.
Yeah, I just think like these themes are just still so relatable, and the execution's there, and it does it a lot better than some other films that kind of carry similar themes today. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
and when I think of like other films I've given thumbs up on this show as well, I feel like no, this should get a thumbs up compared to some others.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
both giving it. We're both saying yay. We can finally move on to some spoilers. You spoiled it.
What?
The movie.
Oh. So what do you want to start, buddy? Like, I'm going to.
We already spoiled so much of it. I don't know why, but this is the first thing I want to mention is that Marlon Brando, he really loves his chewing, and it's not even a spoiler. Like,
I didn't even notice that, but now you said it. Totally.
Every third scene, he's just kind of chewing. I'm like, has he even got gum? It's also something I've noticed in real life, Brenton, where like cool people just kind of chew, like even if they haven't got gum, that's just something that they do. I don't know if you've ever seen this.
Hey, I do it. You know me.
Yeah,
I'm always
every
chewing.
time we do this podcast, Brenton, you just can't stop fucking chewing. Like, oh.
No, he was doing some real Brad Pitt acting there, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah, Jesus. He's like biting an apple every fucking scene. Like, oh.
But it made sense. I don't know. Like, it felt characterful. It felt natural.
Yeah, it's something he was adding. If you want to talk about a specific moment, should we talk about the boat horn? Because it's easily the stupidest thing in this movie.
Oh, I love it, dude.
But why is it in here?
Love it. Well, for a moment that I think the stakes are so insanely high, and also like in terms of like the narrative, in terms of like, it makes sense that he takes her to a location where the mob, who would obviously be spying on what he's doing, could not hear their conversation.
Yeah, but then neither could she.
I think that she could. Like, I think that, like, obviously artistically she can, but it's like, it's also like reflecting her mental state in that moment of like finding out that the love of her life is also was kind of a passenger to her brother's murder. Like, it's the stakes are so sky high in that scene, and I just thought it was like a wonderful kind of artistic way of conveying that. And interestingly enough, I think like even if the scene had been just the two of them acting that moment, like it still would have been powerful. But I think it just added that extra. It added that extra kind of heightened necessity. I think that's something like that scenario kind of needs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely added to the tension. And also because smartly this film like really waited for them to kiss as well. Like,
yeah, I love that too. I love that.
For a very long time, I haven't like shouted at the screen going like kiss. Like, it's been a while.
Especially for, okay, well, let's talk about this compared to American in Paris, which was released 3 years before this.
Yes.
And so both of these are in the 50s. And if we can say anything about this time period, it's just like couples love to kiss. You know what I mean? They'll go on the date. You watch Singing in the Rain even, and like they just like make out all the time. You know what I mean? And it's
like,
it's that closed lip, just smush your faces together.
The weirdest
but
kiss
it's always
ever
like,
in cinema.
It's always like, you know, like not so much in Singing in the Rain, but it's like, you know, there's always like a date or something, and it always just, it kind of brings the characters together, and they overcome like kind of their differences like kind of straight away, like almost.
Yeah.
And it can sometimes feel the depth isn't really there yet in the relationship. I'm not to say that like in those other films there are depths to those relationships that we find out kind of maybe later on. But this, what I appreciate about it is just like their opening moments together. These two characters bringing them together are just so
organic.
Oh, there's so much, yeah, and there's so much juice in the scenes as well. There's in terms of the screenplay, there's so much happening in those scenes. There's blackcurrant juice babies, get on it.
Good choice. Also guava.
Man, it's good stuff.
Oof.
But bringing those characters together and what they reveal about each other is very natural. And
I love
organic,
when they go to
like
the bar
said.
and he's like, "Let me take you out for a drink," and she's like, "Oh, okay."
I love that scene when she drops her glove and he picks her glove up and he puts it on, which was entirely improvised, by the way.
Yeah, and that's amazing. They just look so natural together, like the way that they behave.
They do, don't they?
And it's such like a shit circumstance that they end up meeting. It's like, oh, my brother's dead, and like he's like,
yeah.
And also because like he was kind of involved, but not really. So she's like kind of debating whether like, oh, should I sleep with him? Like,
and it really goes there, doesn't it?
It really does.
Goes
Yeah,
there
I
in the
respect
sense
the
of
movie
like
for it.
dealing with those moral questions.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate as well. Like you see that like he's so conflicted about being in this position, and so when he turns to the priest and he does tell her in that great scene, it means something, and you really care about what's going to happen.
You do,
to him.
and
especially when the danger of the situation starts becoming really apparent.
Yeah, you
and
realize
it's going
anything
through
could
the
happen.
roof. Yeah,
and especially when you compare this to like Gene Kelly, who's so thirsty the whole film in American in Paris for that chick. Brando really is debating even if he wants to be with her. He's like,
yeah,
and and for the 50s, Jesus, it's refreshing to see that. Like,
I agree.
Yeah, rather than like her just be a love interest, like she has actual agency in this, like. Which is
I love her character, dude. I love that she's there. She's there, and she wants to get down to the bottom of this horrible situation of what happened to her brother to kind of help with her own grieving process.
And what a great mirroring as well that his brother ends up dying as well. So they've both lost a brother.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I agree, and I love as well that she at the same time is so. Like I love that little moment she has when she says like why she's getting into teaching, and he says, "Oh, you know, you must have brains for that sort of thing," and like compliments her on that. She says like, "Yeah, brains are good, but it's also about like, you know, how you teach and how you communicate," which is like a reflection, direct reflection on kind of, I guess, like how she kind of teaches him in the film to like open and communicate and realize that there's deep flaws into the way that he's been like conducting himself, and that deep down maybe he does have a heart of gold. Maybe
he does.
just a little one.
It takes him a while though, because
Grinch.
Initially he's like, "No, I'm not going to testify," and he does it for a lot of the film before he finally turns around.
Yeah, and why wouldn't he? And then mate, that scene in the car as well, like that the most famous line comes from between him and his brother.
Because it's so funny, the whole movie he's kept on being called a bum, and I was starting to think like, wait a minute, he's been called a bum. There's a line with a bum in it, and then but I still didn't see it coming. And then when he finally said, "I could have been anything," I'm like, ah! Like he's saying the line.
The setup of that moment is great as well, because the whole movie he's so defensive about like where his lot in life and where he is in the world.
Yeah.
And when you finally find out the backstory too of that, in that moment of how he basically sold away his boxing. He threw his match. He threw away his boxing career. He threw away the one thing that he was like good at, and you know, probably, you know, he could have got the title shot. He could have been something else, and he gave it away for his brother and for this mob, and for this community that are just so low. And it's such a great scene, but also like leading up to that moment between the two brothers, because we don't really see his brother for most of the film. Like we see him in the moments where you see the mob boss, and you just kind of see him as this classic like right hand man kind of accountant caricature, you know. And in that moment, because when the brother kind of saves his brother, like he saves Marlon Brando, it's such a powerful moment, especially when straight away that driver just goes straight into the basement, and the next moment we see his brother like hung on a fucking wall, and the stakes are just through the roof. But in that conversation as well, when Brando realizes that he is kind of like in the place where this is a death sentence if he doesn't agree to their terms, if he doesn't look the other way, and he won't, and it's really powerful. Yeah,
it's amazing. It's so good. And when he's like saying he's a contender and all that kind of stuff, like you really see like the level of damage it's done to him. Like he just feels such regret and this sadness and it's funny because he looks at his brother with new eyes as well. Like you could see the brother's like regretting what he's done, and like the brother takes blame. So like it's just so complex between the two of them. Yeah. And it makes it even sadder when you finally see the brother hung by the hook and you're like, oh,
I just loved it in such a short, just a short moment in the film, and like we haven't really had the setup of this. Like we understand they're brothers. It just gives, again, this film's really good at relationships. It just gives you the complexity of their relationship, and also like the power of their relationship, that they, at the end of the day, and they do try to do this, they would do anything for each other. Because at first you're like, is Charlie just going to lead him to his death, and step aside? And he doesn't. And it's, it just goes to show like how well this film doesn't even go for over 2 hours, dude.
No,
like it's how well it uses
it's well paced.
I
think for what it is,
to get that information across, and again the acting. But what's funny about this scene too is that like Brando wasn't even there for his brother's close-ups. You know what I mean? Like, it's a famous story of basically like Brando, I think, could only work till 4 p.m. or whatever. He was only contracted to work till 4 p.m. each day shooting, and so this other actor rocked up for all of Brando's, the close-ups and all of his, his takes. And on the days where it was his takes, Brando just wasn't there, and it was some crew member probably that was just reading the lines. And apparently there was a lot of
and he still got the Oscar for it. Like, oh
yeah, I know. Like there's just a lot of what would you say? Not conflict necessarily, but maybe just
it was cantankerous
maybe a little bit of
between
bad
the
blood.
two of them.
Yeah, maybe there was a little bit of I don't even know the
tension?
word. Cantankerous is good. Tension. Yeah.
There we go.
Tension's good.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Speaking of tension, I love it when the priest says the title line of the movie at one point. And I wrote it down because I thought it was really great. Where he said, "If you don't think Christ is on the waterfront, you've got another thing coming."
Yeah, dude.
And I thought that was really smart. It's one of the few times I've seen a title drop where I'm like, no, that really informed story, and I wanted to give it a shout out.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm so glad that the priest is in this movie. Actually, I love that there's that extra. No, I do love that there's that presence of, because if you're gonna have a film about morality, well, if you're gonna have a film about that, you need the literal presence of like morality, like of someone that like, and the priest,
the literal embodiment of morality.
But the priest doesn't encompass God either. Like one of my favorite scenes as well is like at the end when Marlon Brando's got the gun, and he's gonna like fucking go in. He's gonna go in guns blazing and take down the mob. When he goes in and he just like socks him in the face. The priest just socks Marlon Brando in the face. Like the priest is human as well.
I love seeing a punching priest. It's great.
And through his passion of like trying to like get to the bottom of this, like his own like choices like come into question as well with what he's doing. You know what I mean? Like he's standing over the dead body of like, someone that's been crushed in a horrible incident. And whilst like, you can question the motives or whether this was staged or whatever, or if it was a murder, which it is.
Yeah.
And the priest is right. He's still like there making this speech, in this moment of and putting this death on like everyone else that is there, like, to stand up and do something about it. And it's such a, if that happened imagine if like, we've just had a huge crisis in Australia with the bushfires, and there's been multiple deaths, and it's been a horrible situation all around. And someone like standing up and putting that on like the community itself, like that is standing by and you put like something that is like out of everyone else's control, really, to a certain extent, of people that are just trying to get by and get through a situation. And he's like, no, this is all your fault, and you should stand up for this and that. Like everyone would just be like, fuck off.
Yeah, exactly. They'd be like,
we're trying to make a dollar here to live and like survive, and it's such a theme of this film of like morality and doing the right thing against like survival and like the easy choice and trying to make a dollar in a society that doesn't give you the opportunities to like provide for family and provide provide.
It reminds me just those post World War II
living.
films where it's just like everything's shit. Like everyone's just come home and like from like 1945 to like 1960, it was just shit. Everyone just had to come back and just like do like labor jobs. I guess like that's why you had like the rise of the unions back in like America and that kind of stuff. And
And I love that the main character in this film, like his past is like, because his past could make a great film as well. The guy that threw the fight. You know what I mean? Like, he
could have versed Rocky.
And the fact that like the film chooses to make him, it's not even that he's necessarily a heroic figure. Like he does a heroic act at the end of this film, was when he gets up and he's been beating the shit off and he leads the workers back into the docks to start working again when he really should be going to a hospital.
He could have immediately gone to hospital. It's like, because like he was the only one to hide. I thought it was a little bit corny. I'm like, but for such a serious film as well. Like,
but it works in the sense because he's still so flawed. You know what I mean?
Oh,
that guy
he's
like,
just so three-dimensional. Just look at all of his flaws.
Well, it's impressive for a film from the 50s, dude, to like have to be exploring the depths of what this is. But to be honest, and I think we alluded to this before, we were both expecting. I wasn't expecting this to have a happy ending.
No, yeah, I genuinely thought they were going to kill him off at the end. I was like, and I was upset. I was like, don't you dare fucking kill him off. Because also, I really shipped the couple. I'm like, no, I want him to live. I want him to live a better life. Like,
I want him to live a better life as well. But at the end of the day, I kind of, not that I wanted him to necessarily die, obviously, but to a certain extent, I wanted him to stand by his choices and face the consequences. Which he does, obviously. Like his brother is fucking like murdered, you know, and hung from a hook, and he's hunted and to be killed. For the ending of this film, but and he gets the shit bashed out of him as well. But like for a moment, like when he was going in to like have the Mexican standoff with the mob, you know, part of you was like, man, if he goes down, like it's going to be really sad, and I don't want this to happen. And I was really invested that I didn't want it to happen, but if it did happen, it would still make sense. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like,
yeah. So either way, it could have informed the story, which is where you kind of want to be.
Last thing is that let's talk about the comparison I kind of made earlier in the episode to The Lighthouse.
Oh, right.
And these psychopathic children that, man, I hate it when animals die in movies. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
For two teenagers, I think, no, they're younger than teenagers. They're probably 12, like just going to 13, going into adolescence. And these boys, on account of this guy, like, you know, calling out this mob boss, and this being the norm in the community to like look the other way.
Just
and
kids.
just
I don't even know what they're doing. Like,
they brutally murder like a whole bunch of pigeons. You know what I mean? And not only that, they proceed to throw the like shackled, bashed up, bloodied corpse of one of them
at Brando.
Marlon Brando.
Jeez, he gets hit with a dead bird, and he's so upset by it because the film does a good job establishing how much he loves those birds.
Yeah, it was a powerful moment. But in the back of my mind, I was thinking someone needs to like address these psychopathic children that are like at large in this neighborhood. Like, good lord. Whew.
Jeez. It's insane. And like, what I wish had happened then is that because they killed the birds, they should have ended up like Robert Pattinson did in The Lighthouse, where just the film ends with just like his corpse laid open as like the pigeons are pecking at it. Like,
were you getting massive Lighthouse vibes in that moment? Because there's a great shot in The Lighthouse where, spoilers for The Lighthouse, where Rob grabs that seagull and he just like bashes the shit out of it like on the rocks, and that prop of the pigeon corpse just gave me so many.
It did give me a little bit of flashback to that. It's like, well, the birds are gonna come get you. It's like, oof. They got in Hitchcock's The Birds because those kids would have been murdered.
They would have been. Maybe this is a prequel. Maybe this is why, you know,
the segue's perfect into Hitchcock's The Birds. Oh.
This is where things went wrong. You know, they were like, we need revenge on those two children. What happened? You know, Bob and Henry, you know, they were part of that flock of pigeons that were like kept in that cage by that awesome dude that always fed them every day and made sure they had shelter.
They did now.
We need to take them out. Those kids out.
Oh, I love it.
Nathan, what stills this movie? Let's get into it.
Ooh, it's blinding.
So this is a segment where Brent and I choose a frame from the movie that we think is very funny or is just visually very interesting. You can catch the still on our Instagram and also on our YouTube. Links are below in the description.
Below.
And the still from this week is that at the end there's like this big fight scene where like Marlon Brando takes on the mob boss and it's great. It's all over the shop. But there's a point where like the mob boss, as he's fighting Marlon Brando, decides to like hook his leg like right over like Marlon Brando's back.
Yeah, and it's for a split moment, but it's like he's been like kind of like tackled into the wall, and he's copping some body punches so it'd be painful. But the solution, I don't think, is to grab the guy's head and to wrap your leg kind of around their back. And it's like, where's he going with this? You know what I mean? Like, what's the plan? Was it to try and kick him in the back, maybe get his heel and dig his heel into his lower back? But at the moment, isn't really like, there's not much force going into the back, and obviously that's because maybe with the fight choreography you don't want to hurt the other actor or whatever. But like, it's just such an odd moment.
It's so weird. Oh, I love it though.
I think I do too, and it's also like his expression at the moment. He's like, it's almost like he could be like, it's a pain.
He could be taking a big shit. Like
he could be like kind of laughing at the same time. Though, like it could be more like a lover's tussle.
It's funny because if there's just a photo we didn't know the context, like it would look quite intimate almost. It's like
exactly.
What do you reckon is the facial expression? Because we can't see his face. But what do you think Brando's face is right now?
I think he could be like, when you get like, you're playing, like with like babies or like toddlers or whatever, and like dads sometimes do the thing where they like blow on their bellies or whatever, and they go, they make the noise on their bellies, and the kids like, and like with their ones. Maybe he's doing that to him, like
it looks a little bit like
blowing raspberries.
What's that word? It's like when you motorboat boobs or whatever it is.
Oh my god!
It looks as though like he's doing that to Brando right now. Brando's like, this is not the direction I thought this fight would go in.
And he's like, but I'm glad it did.
Oh. The girlfriend rocks up to watch the fight and he starts doing that. He's like, babe, I don't mean it.
Yeah, this movie covers a lot of ground.
Oh, wow. So it was so forward thinking back in the 50s. Oh.
Exactly.
Well, hey, let's look at this film's poster. Blanton.
Yes.
Let's look at this film's poster.
But is it art? So
Jesus Christ, this poster.
Before we say anything, like that was a great reaction. I had not seen this poster at all.
Oh my god.
And now that I've seen it, I've two questions. One,
yes. What
is with Marlon Brando's lipstick and rouge? You know what I mean?
Why is he wearing lipstick on the poster? He's also got a little bit on his face as well. Or is that meant to be like a scar or something? Like
I don't know. Look, if the coloring had been different for this poster, it could have been all right. I feel like this is too vibrant for what the film is, especially not only because it's in black and white, but like because the themes of this are quite dark, and like I haven't even spoken about the score of this film, which is just phenomenal. I love the score in this film.
Right,
and that it adds a layer to it. Like I think the opening credits were really awesome in setting the tone of this, and so the tone is dark. It's
like the lighting.
It's conflicted. It should reflect that, not. Oh,
what do you think? What's this expression? Like, what do you think he's looking at right now? And there's like little, like in his face there.
His teeth are also very strange.
They look like fake teeth. Who painted this? It's so weird. Everyone look at this poster.
He's also got eyeliner. Look at his eyes.
Is he meant to be like a drag for this?
I think so. Maybe what has happened right now is that he's had a really kind of intimate experience with that mob boss when he was giving him raspberries, this is set after the film, and he's become a drag queen.
Oh my goodness!
And he's been caught in the act by his woman, and she's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I've had a new lease on life." and he's turning back to talk to her, but he's walking to go onto the stage. You know what I mean? He's turning to take the stage, and he's gonna put on his wig, and he's gonna go at it. Maybe this is set in Adelaide, and maybe this is in the same world as Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. I'm not sure.
Oh, that'd be great. I would love to see Brando as this poster in Priscilla. Just like, that'd be great. I think what the poster should have been is just what you see on the bottom right, which is like with like him and her just like laying down. I reckon that would have been like, paint that up. That could be a big good poster.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I also find it weird, like the weird like rectangle on the left of like the fight at the end. Like it's so all over the place, this poster.
There's so many options. There's so many options you could go. Like I understand, like it could be him with the pigeons and the pigeon pen. Maybe it could be it could be like him when he's on the swing with her, like and he's got the glove on or whatever. Like there's moments that you could pick from this movie to have. Like obviously he should be the focal point of the poster. But I just don't know if this image really does it.
It's so weird. I can't believe Brando let them put lipstick on him. Like, jeez.
It could have worked, but it's obviously just like when they've given this to the artist and they've colored it and they've made it really.
And also,
vibrant.
the artist has like fuck all clue what the movie's about, and all they've been given is the title, so they're like, I guess this is it.
Yeah, strange. Really strange. But
speaking of title talk.
Ooh, it's the title.
On the Waterfront.
yeah, it's a great title.
Were they
It is
on
a
the
great
waterfront, Brenton?
They were on the
They
waterfront.
were on the waterfront. And the waterfront played a prominent role because the mob boss ended up in the waterfront.
Oh, he got tossed in there.
What
dude.
should happen is that when he was tossed off into the water, he should have like come back up for air and then suddenly shouted, "Oh no, now I'm in the waterfront." And Brando's like, "What?"
And then just fades to black.
Oh, that would have been great. Yeah, it's pretty good. It is like, I get around this. Also, when they said the title in the movie, I was like, 100%, I'm for this.
Yeah, same here. Well, Nathan,
Yes.
I've kind of exerted all my power, so should we pass what little power we have left to the people?
Let's do it.
Pass it here.
What?
The power to the people.
On the tomato meter, or the tomato meter as I like to call it, the film has a critical consensus of 98%. It is certified fresh.
They love it. Whoa, it's so hot right now.
With an audience score of 95%. Or 95%, 98%. Like,
People seem to like this
that's
movie.
pretty far up there. Yeah. Such as Phil Villarreal. Phil
He's given a
Villarreal.
pretty real review.
Hey, let's hope so. From Arizona Daily Star. The difference between pre- and post-1950s cinema. Before and after Brando is as pronounced as moving from black and white to color. Hey, yeah,
Probably.
that's a really great quote, you know? Like, Brando brings us into like the new generation of actors, you know what I mean? He brings us into the we're moving away from the
It's funny because when you compare the films we've done that are older than this, you really do notice it. Like, you compare the acting in like
Yeah.
Wuthering Heights or King Kong or
it's very classical in terms of like the acting styles and whatnot. You can see these actors were trained for the stage probably.
but they're learning from Brando in this.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
They are. And he, you know, and Brando at this time was a really established stage actor as well.
Yeah.
So the fact that he brings this nuance and he's brought this artistry to the craft of acting, you know, is kind of phenomenal.
What a time.
And it was great that he kind of paved the way for a lot of other actors and this type of performance to be continue to be captured on screen. And it's, you know, it's kind of easy to say that now when you look at the plethora of performances.
Yeah, because everyone's
like,
doing it now.
Yeah, you look at the Oscars, like, you know, nominations today, and it's just in terms of like the context of like you look at everyone that's nominated for performance for Oscars in today's society, and it's always nuanced performances. It's always crafted kind of.
You won't see Eddie Redmayne being nominated for Go. That's not nuance.
Hey.
Maybe Eddie Redmayne was trying to Marlon Brando it. Maybe he was trying to make a new form of acting where you just shout every line and then whisper.
I think he was going for the extremes. You know what I mean?
Inventing his own style of acting. Oh, if only other actors respected it.
If only.
Tim R, he gave it 5 stars and wrote, "As much as I love The Godfather, I still believe this is Marlon Brando's best performance." Yeah, what do you think of the two compared together?
Ooh. Oh, I like this better than The Godfather in terms of his
Same.
performance.
I just like this better than The Godfather, frankly.
Yeah, same. But it's not his best performance.
No, obviously Superman is his best performance.
No, his best performance is Streetcar Named Desire.
Oh, right.
Friend.
Yes, that's quite true.
In my opinion.
Still,
But this is still pretty phenomenal. You know,
well done, Brando.
well done. Good on you, mate. And good on you, Chaz J, for giving this film 5 stars and saying, "Wow, Marlon Brando makes everyone else seem so out of tune." That's an interesting way to put it.
That is interesting,
Yeah.
but also I don't think entirely correct. I don't think because he's
No,
so
I don't
good,
think so
everyone
either.
else looks so Like, I think they hold up their own.
Like we said, like his scene partners really brought their A game as well, and you can see that everyone was bringing their all to this film, and everyone was in the world of this film. You know what I mean? There was no one that stood out because they were doing something that was out of the world, let's say, or you know, something that didn't make sense in terms of like the performances surrounding Brando. They were all consistent.
Absolutely. Stephen Scott wrote on YouTube, "They should really do a remake of this classic."
That's an interesting one because I feel like we do get similar themes and characters. You know what I mean?
Could you
today anyway.
update it like up to like 2020? But it doesn't feel that outdated watching it. Like it doesn't feel that
No.
50s. Like
No,
I don't know what a
no,
2020
it's not-
adaptation would do with this kind of story.
Well, I feel like there are films today that kind of capture the similar characters and similar stories. Like you could look at something like, I don't know, like Drive or something like that, you know, with Gosling in that film, and like you dealing with a character that is dealing with a conflict of morals, you know, and is a bad boy, and like he obviously does way worse things than Brando does. Like you know, at the start of this film, like It's really interesting that the film actually takes that kind of that the characters kind of got that innocence in a way as well. That it's like, I didn't know that they were going to violently murder that guy that I told to go to the roof.
Wait a minute. It's like, yeah, it's like,
And it
really,
and
you
they
didn't
really
know.
like throws him out. He's like, what? He's like, what? And then he's like, I'm a pawn. What?
I'm reading porn at work. That's the thing that happens in this movie at one point. You couldn't do that in 2020. And lastly, Matt Victor on YouTube wrote, I don't like the country. The crickets make me nervous. Haha, I love that line for some reason. I know what he means.
Well, it's two city goers.
Yes, we're both very city.
Do crickets make you nervous?
I mean, critics definitely make me nervous, but... Not really. I'm like, I see what he means by that line. It's like, the silence. It's like if you can't hear shit, you get a little bit weird.
Mate, crickets can be deafening if there's like...
Yeah, it's like there's plenty of them. No, not really. I love the country, We're both country boys. We've been on some wine tours here and there.
Yeah. We've been out there.
Oh, yeah. We've slogged some hay, We've done the fair bit of work out in the country.
Oh, yeah. I've been on the land.
I've been on the property.
I've been on a tractor. Guys,
that was On The Waterfront and also a host of other discussions.
Mate, what an episode. And we still managed to make, pretty good time. We didn't go too far over
still
time,
made it under an
what I mean?
hour, so well done us.
That's wonderful.
But also well done listeners, the most important thing of this
guys,
show.
honestly, thank you if you are still listening.
Thank you.
Sticking with us through all of that.
But if you love this movie, what a convo. And join the convo on Insta and Twitter as well. We want to talk to you guys about it. If you loved it, let us know. And if you hated it, we want to hear why.
Yeah.
Is it because of the dead birds in this movie? Because
honestly, please tell us your opinions and tell us if you think ours are wrong. Because that's always fun.
Yeah.
We
love to know when we're wrong. We're taught it so consistently every day. So just add to the pile.
It does help though, because you just find out that your opinion's always wrong and you just kind of go, okay, cool.
Oh, yeah.
That's good to know.
That's why we do a podcast just broadcasting our opinions, Brenton.
You poor listeners. But
and keep checking out the social media too if you want to get a hint of what we do next week. We post the still and poster before it comes out. So if you want to know what we're going to review next week, check out the social medias. Links all below.
We do record every week, and what really helps us out as well is if you guys could give us a review on the podcast app or on any other platform, basically.
We'll give you all the kisses for it.
Oh, chef's kiss.
Mwah.
You guys are the best, and we can't wait to see you next week for whatever we do.
For whatever we decide to do. So what is it you were trying to tell me before, Brenton, at the opening?
Oh, what I was trying to say was, if we get a bird on the podcast, we should definitely...
That's disgusting!